Welcome to the Mindfully Renewed podcast with your host, Monique Tillman, where mental health and spiritual health unite to create lasting abundance. Here, faith meets emotional healing, and minds are renewed through biblical meditation, life application, and Holy Spirit-led reflection. In a world overflowing with distraction, deception, disappointment, and emotional overwhelm, this is your safe haven to be still before God, guard your mind, and take on the mind of Christ, not just in moments of crisis, but as a daily pursuit. By keeping His Word etched in our hearts and applying the first two great commandments, we'll uncover biblical truth, cultivate the fruit of the Spirit, and dismantle the environmental influences that keep us from aligning our mind, body, and heart with God's will. To go deeper, visit sovereignstature.com to book your biblical meditation session. Register for our free life application group, Sovereign Saturdays, or explore purpose consulting, coaching for kingdom builders. Let's get mindfully renewed and live life more abundantly.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mindfully Renewed podcast. I'm your host, Monique, and today we're going to be doing another Thinking Out Loud segment. I wanted to go back and revisit something that came up in our last episode, Idols of Approval. We briefly touched on antisocial personality disorder in connection to narcissism, and I mentioned that it's not the same as introversion. I realize this is worth a deeper look. All right, so I want to explain this a little bit further because these two things often get confused, and I don't want people to think at all whatsoever that I was saying to take a moment of introversion is a bad thing, because it's not. I do this often. In ministry, I am extending myself on a spiritual aspect. So there's a lot of warfare that happens. And then within this counseling practice, I am extending myself emotionally and mentally. There's a lot of energy that's taking in from other individuals. I often spend time where I draw back for a little bit to reflect, to make sure that I am balanced, to make sure that I am healthy, because I can't continue to pour out and not pour in. And sometimes you have to pour into yourself. Sometimes others will pour into you. But we're talking about taking a moment to breathe, to reflect on the things that have occurred recently in your life, to show moments of gratitude, to process things that you might have thought should have gone a different way. Whatever the case is, this is healthy. And when I do go into these introverted moments, I'm not being antisocial whatsoever. There are periods in time I may be led by the Holy Spirit to shut down my social media. Just make sure that I'm purged from outside media influence, which we know can impact you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then all in conjunction. Sometimes those things affect you physically. We have to be very mindful of the things we're intaking. And during those times, maybe I'm not on the phone as much. Maybe I'm not texting as much. But what I won't do is not be there for the people I'm obligated to be there for. If people reach out to me and they're going through crisis, I'm not going to ignore them. It's very possible I may say, hey, right now I'm in a season of consecration. I can't talk when it's not an emergency. So I am conveying the information to let people know, hey, you might have noticed I'm not on social media, or you might have noticed I haven't been reaching out as much, and that's because I'm consecrating at this moment. I'm going deeper in purging and allowing the Lord to refine me in this moment. But is everything well? Yes. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to talk to you later. I'm never operating in a negative stance when it comes to interacting socially with other individuals. And I think that is the thing that I want to point out the most during this conversation. It is important to set firm boundaries and honor personal need for balance. So sometimes you can extend your energy to people. You can't do that all the time. I myself can personally relate to the need to retreat, to recharge, and to be mindful about who I'm associating with. Even Jesus modeled this. Luke 5:16 tells us that Jesus often withdrew to be alone and pray. In Matthew 14:23, It says, after ministering to a large crowd, that Jesus went up to the mountain alone to recharge, to pray, to spend time in the presence of our God. This is very necessary. Luke 6:12, it shows him in solitude, praying through the night before choosing his 12 disciples. This was a very important time in the ministry of Christ. He was laying the foundation of the individuals that will pioneer the church, the disciples, the apostles. So he went off to receive instruction in solitude with God. And in Luke 22, 39-46, before his crucifixion, Jesus prayed alone to strengthen himself. And I think we have our moments like that where we have to go to God. And it's best to sit with the Father in the presence of the Holy Spirit and allow that clarity and that reflection to bring forth the ability to process your emotions and your thoughts. So taking time to retreat, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. Introversion is a personality trait, focusing more on internal thoughts and feelings rather than external stimulation. So introverts often prefer solitude at times. They value deeper connections over large crowds. They like intimacy. They recharge by spending time alone, and they appear more reserved or quiet. I remember a young lady I used to manage was an introvert. The way she took care of the patients in the office was so keen. She knew their names. She knew about their families. She knew little things a lot of people did not know. And that's because she was quick to listen and very slow to speak. So in that aspect, her being introverted gave her the ability to be more present for others. None of this indicates a disorder. In fact, it often reflects self-awareness and intentional replenishment. On the other hand, antisocial disorder, very different. It involves a pattern of violating social norms, disregard for the rights and feelings of others, lack of empathy, aggression or hostility in social situations, manipulation for personal gain, and often people with this disorder have difficulty forming healthy, lasting relationships because they're considering more, how does this benefit me? An example of this, there are numerous individuals I have recognized when they withdrew, it tend to cause negative effect to someone else. For instance, they would withdraw and for some reason, I would speak to them again and they didn't have their friends anymore. And these friends aren't necessarily always connected. They had an issue with keeping friends, or they would go through a moment of trial in their lives, not being able to work out whatever's going on physically or emotionally or mentally with themselves in that moment. These individuals would just cut people off. And there is a way to go about withdrawing to introspect that's healthy, that doesn't negatively affect others. And in that moment, whatever overwhelm they were experiencing was so detrimental that they could consider no one else. They did not know how to process their emotions and also convey information with other people. And a lot of times, even after created offense, they didn't go back and rectify that issue with the person either. Again, antisocial disorder does make it very hard for people to maintain healthy relationships with individuals that are used to communicating effectively. The distinction in this, introversion is about respect of your own limits, while antisocial traits involve violation of others' boundaries. I wanted to make this very clear because introverts may withdraw to become the best versions of themselves for others, while those with antisocial patterns often withdraw from others out of selfishness, control, and avoidance. There's a difference. So why does this matter? Because we live in a culture that can shame people for needing or valuing solitude, calling them antisocial, when in reality, some of these people may simply be mindful of their energy. Setting boundaries, withdrawing, especially for prayer, and prioritizing replenishment are not problems to fix. They're part of living wisely, guarding your heart, and stewarding your mind, body, and spirit well. Yep, that's it. Quick thinking out loud on that. Again, I wanted to just bring clarity because I don't want people thinking that everyone that choose to either exercise moments of introversion or that are introverted are negative because they're not. But antisocial disorder, yes, those are things that may represent character flaws that need to be brought into light and counseled so individuals can understand how to interact socially with others in a healthy way. So, family, that's this thinking out loud moment for today. I just want to make sure that we clearly distinguish between introversion and antisocial disorder and remind you that honoring your need for rest and reflection is not only okay, it's biblical. Until next time, keep being mindful, keep being renewed to be transformed, and keep guarding your heart so that you are stewarding where all things flow. God bless you into more abundant life.